Perfect. She's going to need this at home. Those words came out of my son-in-law's mouth as he held up a maid's uniform, a blue uniform with a white apron that his mother had just given my daughter, Shelley, on her very own wedding day. I watched my girl's eyes well up with tears. I saw her clutch that uniform in her trembling hands, and something inside me, something that had been dormant for 60 years, woke up. My name is Margaret Fields. I'm 60 years old, and what happened that night at the Grand Ballroom changed everything. But to understand what I did, I need you to listen from the beginning, because some stories can't be told in just one night. There are humiliation that are woven slowly, with fake smiles and poisoned words. Shelley met Rob 3 years before that wedding. It was January. I was brewing hot coffee in the kitchen when she walked in, almost floating. "Mum, I met someone." That's how it all started, with that innocent phrase, with those shining eyes I hadn't seen since she was a little girl. Rob came from a well-known family in the Greenwich Village area. His mother, Mrs. Constance Cunningham, née Miller, had been the queen of her little kingdom her entire life. A woman who measured people by the size of their houses and the sparkle of their jewellery. The first time I met her was at a cafe on the Upper East Side. She arrived 30 minutes late. "Oh, I apologize, Margaret," she said without looking me in the eye. "My driver got the address wrong." She never called me by my first name again. From that day on, I was simply Shelley's mother, as if I didn't have my own identity. My daughter was so in love that she didn't see the signs, or maybe she saw them and preferred to ignore them. "Mum, Rob is different," she would tell me. "He respects me. He loves me." And God knows I wanted to believe her. The months passed. Rob was polite to me, correct, but there was something about the way he would smile when his mother spoke, as if they shared a secret joke the rest of the world didn't understand. One day, 6 months before the wedding, Shelley came home quieter than usual. She sat down at the kitchen table where we had always solved life's problems. "Mrs. Cunningham says I need to learn to cook better," she mumbled without lifting her gaze. "She says their family has a standard." I felt a cold chill run down my spine. "And what did Rob say?" "He laughed, Mum," she said. "He said his mother was right." I couldn't sleep that night. I lay looking at the ceiling, thinking of all the times I had allowed others to make me feel small, all the times I had stayed silent to keep the peace, and I swore to myself that my daughter would not inherit my silence. But Shelley was determined to get married. And I started making plans. Plans no one could imagine. I hired a lawyer, a good one. I asked him for absolute discretion. "I want to buy a house," I told him. "In my daughter's name, only in her name." He looked at me over his glasses. "Are you sure, Mrs. Fields? It's a big decision." "I have never been more sure of anything in my life." For months, I worked double shifts. I sold the jewellery my mother had left me. I sold the car I liked so much. Every dollar I earned, I saved for one single purpose. Shelley knew nothing. No one knew anything. The wedding day arrived. The ballroom was decorated with white roses and blue hydrangeas, all paid for by the Cunningham Miller family, of course. They made sure every guest knew it. The ceremony was beautiful. My girl looked radiant in her lace gown. I cried the way every mother cries who sees her daughter walk toward an uncertain future. Then came the reception, the toasts, the fake laughter, the superior glances from Mrs. Cunningham and her circle of friends. And then came the moment for gifts. Mrs. Cunningham stood up from her table. She carried a box wrapped in gold paper. She walked up to where Shelley was standing, with that smile I had already learned to recognize, that smile that never reached her eyes. "My dear Shelley," she said, her voice loud enough for everyone to hear, "I want to give you something very special, something practical." She opened the box, slowly, deliberately, and pulled out a maid's uniform, navy blue, with a white apron, with the name Shelley embroidered on the chest. The room fell silent. "So you can be presentable when you do the housework," Mrs. Cunningham continued. "A wife should know her place." Mrs. Cunningham's friends laughed discreetly behind their napkins. Rob stepped closer, took the uniform in his hands, and with that smile I now hated, he said, "Perfect, Mum. She's going to need this at home." I saw the tears streaming down my daughter's face. I saw her trying to smile, to maintain her composure, not to make a scene. And in that moment, everything became clear. I rose from my chair, slowly. My hands were trembling, but my voice came out steady and clear. "What an interesting gift, Mrs. Cunningham," I said, walking toward them. "Now allow me to give my daughter mine." I pulled a small box, lined in blue velvet, from my purse. "Open it, my love," I told Shelley. She looked at me with eyes full of tears and confusion. She opened the box with trembling hands. Inside were two carefully folded documents. She unfolded them, and as she read what they said, I thought of how sometimes we trust too much in those we shouldn't. Have you, too, been disappointed by someone you loved? Tell me your story in the comments. I want to read it. Shelley held those papers in her hands as if they were made of glass. Her eyes traced the lines over and over, trying to understand what she was seeing. "Mum, what is this?" "Read it out loud, my love," I told her. My voice came out calmer than I felt inside. She swallowed. The tears were still falling, but now for a different reason. "Property deed," she began to read, her voice shaking. "House located at Magnolias Lane, number 43, Brooklyn Heights. Owner, Michelle Sophia Fields Estrada." The silence in the ballroom was so thick you could cut it with a knife. Mrs. Cunningham had lost all composure. Her face, always so carefully made up, had turned pale and then red, very red. "What does this mean?" Rob asked. He wasn't smiling anymore. "It means," I said, looking him directly in the eye, "that my daughter has her own roof over her head, her own house, in her name, only in her name." Shelley kept reading the second document. Her lips moved in silence. "And this, Mum, this is a power of attorney." "Yes, my dear, a power of attorney that establishes that this house is yours and only yours, that no one can claim rights to it, not even your husband. I need you to understand something. I am not a wealthy woman. I never have been. I've been working since I was 16 years old, first at my uncle's stationery store, then at the neighborhood middle school as a secretary, and later as an administrator. Every dollar I've earned in my life, I've sweated for. I've worked for it with my own hands. But there are things money can't buy. Dignity, for example. Respect. The certainty that your daughter won't have to depend on anyone for a place to sleep. The house I bought wasn't a mansion. It was a simple 3-bedroom house with a small yard and a fountain in the patio. But it was hers. Completely hers. "I don't understand," Rob said. His voice had changed. He was no longer the polite, correct son-in-law. He was a man who had just realized that something wasn't going according to his plans. "Why would you do something like that? Don't you trust me?" I walked toward him, very slowly. I looked at him as only a mother can look at the man who is about to hurt her daughter. "It's not about trust, Rob. It's about my daughter never having to wear that uniform your mother gave her. It's about that if one day she decides she no longer wants to be in a place where she is humiliated, she has somewhere to go." Mrs. Cunningham finally found her voice. "This is an insult," she shrieked. "An insult to our family." Her sharp voice echoed in the room. Some people started murmuring. "You're implying that my son won't take good care of his wife. I'm not implying anything, Mrs. Cunningham. I'm just making sure my daughter has options. The guests began talking among themselves, some with approval, others scandalized. Rob's cousin, the one who had always been kind to me, gave me a small nod from his table. Rob's father, Mr. Ernest Cunningham, who had been quiet all night, rose heavily from his chair. He was an older man, 72 years old, with that air of authority that comes from years of managing a business. "Margaret," he said, approaching me. Everyone expected him to scold me, to defend his wife, but he didn't. He walked up to Shelley and took her hands in his. "My girl, your mother is a very wise woman, and you are very lucky to have her." Then he looked at me. "I couldn't do this for my own daughter. I wish I had. Maybe today she wouldn't be living in a marriage that makes her unhappy." Mrs. Cunningham let out a choked cry. "Ernest, how dare you?" "I dare because it's the truth, Constance. I dare because I'm tired of watching you treat people as if they were beneath you." The reception never recovered from that moment. Some guests began to leave early. Others stayed but with uncomfortable faces, unsure where to look. Shelley hugged me so tightly I thought she would break my ribs. "Thank you, Mum," she whispered in my ear. "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet, my love. This is just starting." And she was right, because what happened that night was only the beginning. Let me tell you how I came to that moment, how I came to make that decision that changed everything. 6 months earlier, when Shelley told me about Mrs. Cunningham's comment about her cooking, I had gone to visit my sister Lucy. Lucy is 2 years older than I am. All her life she had been prettier, thinner, more elegant. She married young to a man from a good family. Richard, a well-educated, handsome man, with a prosperous importing business. For 20 years, Lucy lived in a beautiful house in Beverly Hills. She had a driver, she had help, she had everything a woman could wish for, except respect. Richard was cheating on her. Everyone knew it. He didn't even bother to hide it. And when Lucy finally had the courage to ask him for a divorce, she discovered something terrible. The house was in his name. The cars were in his name. The bank accounts were in his name. Lucy had nothing. After 20 years of marriage, of raising 3 children, of organizing her husband's business dinners, of being the perfect wife, she had nothing. She had to return to my parents' house, at 42 years old, with her children, with no money, no options. The day I went to visit her, I found her in the kitchen of the house where we grew up. Our mother had passed away 2 years earlier. The house felt empty and sad. Lucy was preparing chamomile tea. Her hands, which were always perfectly manicured, now looked rough, unpolished, with short nails. "You know what the worst part is, Maggie," she said without looking at me. "It's not that he cheated on me. It's not that he left me. The worst part is realizing that I was never the owner of my own life. Everything I had was borrowed, and when I was no longer useful to him, he took it all away." We sat in silence, drinking that bitter tea. "Shelley is getting married," I finally told her. Lucy looked up. In her eyes, I saw something that broke my heart. Fear. "Don't let the same thing happen to her, Maggie. Please, don't let her make my mistake." That conversation changed something in me. It made me see that love is not enough. Goodwill is not enough. Promises are not enough. That very night, I started doing the math. How much did I have saved? How much could I get? How much did I need? My salary as an administrator wasn't bad. After 30 years of work, I had managed to save something. Not a lot, but something. My mother's jewelry was kept in a safe in my closet. A pearl necklace, white gold earrings, a ring with a small diamond that my father had given her for their 25th anniversary. "Forgive me, Mum," I whispered that night as I took it out of its case. "But this is for your granddaughter. I know you would understand." I went to 3 different jewelers to get the best price. At the last one, the owner was an older gentleman who looked at me with tired eyes. "They are very nice pieces," he said. "Are you sure you want to sell them?" "Completely sure." He gave me a fair price. Not excellent, but fair. I signed the papers without hesitation. Then I sold my car, a 2008 Nissan Sentra that had lasted me for years. It was old but reliable. A young student bought it for his wife. "It's so she can take the kids to school," he explained with a shy smile. "It will last her many years," I told him. "Take good care of it." I started taking public transportation, the bus, the subway, long walks in the sun. At 60 years old, it wasn't easy. But every time I felt my legs ache, my back killing me, I thought of Shelley, of the uniform that Mrs. Cunningham was probably already planning to give her. And I kept walking. I also started working weekends. I got an extra job teaching computer classes to seniors at a community centre. They didn't pay much, but every dollar counted. Shelley noticed I was more tired. "Mum, are you okay? You look so thin." "I'm perfect, my love, just a little busy with work." I couldn't tell her the truth. Not yet. I needed it to be a surprise. I needed that day, the day of her wedding, when Mrs. Cunningham tried to humiliate her, for her to have something real, something tangible, something that no one could take away from her. 3 months before the wedding, I finally had enough money for the down payment. I went to see houses with a real estate agent a co-worker had recommended to me. "I'm looking for something simple, but respectable," I told him. "With a yard, if possible, a place where my daughter can feel at peace." We saw 7 houses. Some were in bad shape, others were in areas I didn't like. But the eighth one was perfect. It was on a quiet street in Brooklyn Heights, a 2-story house, painted a light peach color. It had a small fountain in the patio with blue and white tiles. Bougainvillea grew over the back wall, filling everything with magenta color. "This one," I said. "This is it." The agent looked at me surprised. "Don't you want to see the inside?" "Yes, of course, but I already know this is it." We went inside. The interior smelled of fresh paint and cleanliness. The living room was small but bright. The kitchen had enough space for a large table. The bedrooms were on the 2nd floor, with windows overlooking the yard. The main bedroom had a balcony. I stepped out. From there you could see the fountain in the patio. You could hear the water running softly. I closed my eyes and imagined Shelley sitting there in the mornings, drinking coffee, listening to the water, at peace. "I'll take it," I said. The legal process was complicated. The lawyer, Attorney Miller, was a meticulous man. "Mrs. Fields, I need you to understand something very important. If we make the deed only in your daughter's name, and then we create the special power of attorney you are asking for, it means that even if she gets married, the house will remain only hers. The husband will not have any rights to the property." "That is exactly what I want." "It is unusual," he said. "It can cause tension in a marriage." "Attorney," I looked at him directly. "If it causes tension, then it was the wrong marriage from the start." He nodded slowly. "I understand. We will proceed as you indicate." I signed all the papers. I paid all the notary fees. Every signature was an act of love. Every stamp was a promise. The night before the wedding, I couldn't sleep. I got up at 3 hours 0 minutes and went to the kitchen. I brewed hot coffee, the way my mother taught me, with cinnamon. I sat at the table. The very table where Shelley had cried when Mrs. Cunningham told her she needed to learn to cook better. I took the documents out of my purse. I unfolded them carefully. I read every line again, though I already knew them by heart. I hope I'm doing the right thing, I whispered into the darkness. I hope one day she understands why I did this. Outside, a dog barked in the distance. The clock in the living room marked 3 hours, 30 minutes. I folded the papers again. I put them in the blue velvet envelope I had bought especially for this, and I waited for the sunrise. As I tell all this, I wonder where you might be listening to me. Write the name of your city in the comments. After Mr. Ernest said those words about his own daughter, the room was divided. There were those who looked at me with admiration. Other people, especially Mrs. Cunningham's friends, gave me looks of contempt. Rob had moved away from us. He was in a corner with his mother, speaking in low voices but with abrupt gestures. She waved her hands as if conducting an invisible orchestra. He nodded, a lot. Shelley was still hugging me. I could feel her trembling. I don't know if it was from joy or fear. Maybe both. Mum, I don't know what to say. Don't say anything, my love. Just promise me that you will never forget that you have that place, that you will always, always have a roof that is yours. She nodded against my shoulder. Her tears dampened the fabric of my wine-coloured dress. The band started playing again, trying to recover the festive atmosphere. But it was useless. The damage was already done. Or rather, the protection was already in place. Uncle Andrew, my deceased husband's brother, approached us. He was a man of almost 70 years old, with a white moustache and eyes that always seemed to be smiling. "Margaret," he said softly, "what you did there, your husband would be very proud." My husband, Charles, had been dead for 8 years. A sudden heart attack while waiting for the bus to go to work. He was only 52 years old. We never had much. He worked at a hardware store. I worked at the school. But we were happy. He respected me. He valued me. He never made me feel small. "Thank you, Uncle," I said, my voice breaking. When Charles died, I thought I would never be able to move on. Shelley was 17. She was still in high school. Suddenly I found myself alone, with a daughter to support, bills to pay, an uncertain future. But I kept going, because that's what women do. We keep going even if the world is falling apart. And now, 8 years later, I was here, watching my daughter get married, protecting her in the only way I knew how. Rob finally returned. His face had changed completely. He was no longer the groom in love. He was a stranger in a tie. "Shelley, we need to talk." "Not now, Rob. It's our wedding." "Precisely because of that, we need to talk. Your mother just—" "My mother just gave me the best gift anyone could give me," Shelley interrupted him. And in her voice there was something new, something I had never heard before. Firmness. Rob clenched his jaw. For a moment I thought he was going to explode, but he didn't. Instead, he forced a smile. "All right, we'll talk later." He walked away again, this time toward the bar. He ordered a whiskey, then another. Mr. Ernest approached me while I watched Rob drink. "My son is not used to things not going his way. I know. His mother raised him that way, believing the world owes him something, that people are tools for his convenience." I looked at the old man. His eyes were tired. "Why did you stay with her all these years, Mr. Ernest?" He sighed deeply. "Out of cowardice, Margaret. Out of simple and plain cowardice. And because when you are 60 years old and have a life built, getting a divorce seems harder than enduring. But a day doesn't go by that I don't regret it." He was silent for a moment. Then he added, "Don't let your daughter make my mistake. If that boy doesn't treat her well, if he makes her feel small, If he mistreats her in any way, you already have a place to go back to. I know. And I will be keeping an eye out. You have my word. That was one of the saddest conversations of my life. Seeing an elderly man admit that he wasted decades in a loveless marriage. The party ended around midnight, much earlier than planned. The newlyweds were supposed to leave that night for Cabo, a week at an all-inclusive resort. I helped Shelley change from her wedding dress into her travel clothes. It was a simple white dress with embroidered flowers. "Mum," she said as I zipped her up. "How did you know?" I told her about Lucy, about how my sister had lost everything, about how I had promised that the same thing would not happen to my daughter. Aunt Lucy never told me that. Aunt Lucy is ashamed. She shouldn't be, but she is. That's how the women of our generation are. We were taught that the failure of a marriage is the wife's fault, that if a man leaves, it's because we weren't enough. That's horrible, Mum. I know, my love. That's why I want you to be different. Never accept being treated as less. Never depend completely on anyone. We hugged. I cried again. It seemed I wouldn't stop crying that night. When we went downstairs, Rob was already waiting by the car, a black BMW that his father had given him. Mrs. Cunningham approached to say goodbye. She had regained her composure. She was perfectly coiffed, perfectly made up, perfectly furious. "Shelley, dear," she said in a sweet voice that fooled no one, "I hope you enjoy your honeymoon. When you return, we need to talk about arrangements, about where you will live." "We already have a place to live, mother-in-law," Shelley replied. Her voice sounded more confident now. "I have a house. A house your mother bought to control you. A house my mother bought to protect me. There's a difference." Mrs. Cunningham pursed her lips into a thin line. Then she turned to me. "You are a very clever woman, Margaret. Very clever. But this is not going to stand." "It was not my intention for it to stand in any way, Mrs. Cunningham. It was only my intention to protect my daughter. You protected her from my family, as if we were her enemies. I didn't protect her from your family. I protected her from vulnerability. There's a difference." We looked at each other for a long time. Two women from similar generations, two mothers, but with completely opposite views of the world. Rob honked the horn. He was impatient to leave. Shelley hugged me one last time. "I love you, Mum. Thank you." "I love you too, my dear. Call me when you arrive." I watched the black BMW drive away. The cans tied to the bumper rattled against the pavement. Inside, I could see Rob saying something to Shelley. She was looking out the window. I stood at the entrance to the ballroom until the car's lights completely disappeared. "You did the right thing," Uncle Andrew said to me, placing a hand on my shoulder. "I hope so." "You did. You'll see." That night, I returned alone to my apartment, a small two-bedroom apartment in Astoria. The walls were full of photos of Shelley, as a baby, as a child, as a teenager, at her college graduation, and now married. I sat on the sofa with a cup of herbal tea. I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about everything that had happened, about Rob's face when he saw the documents, about Mrs. Cunningham's words, about the new firmness in my daughter's voice. At 2 hours 0 minutes, my phone rang. It was Shelley. "Mum, we arrived at the hotel. How was the flight?" Silence on the other end. Then, "Rob is angry. He hasn't spoken to me since we left the ballroom." I felt my heart clench. "And how are you?" "I don't know, Mum. I'm confused. I should be happy. It's my honeymoon. But he's punishing you with silence?" "Yes." I took a deep breath before speaking. "My love, listen to me closely. If a man punishes you with silence, with emotional abuse, with making you feel guilty for protecting yourself, that man does not love you. He wants to control you, and those are two very different things. Mum, we just got married. I know. And maybe Rob is just processing everything. Maybe tomorrow he will wake up and everything will be better. But if not, if in these days he treats you badly, if he makes you feel like you did something wrong by accepting my gift, then you know who he really is. I heard her crying on the other end. I'm scared, Mum. I know, my love. But you are no longer unprotected. Remember that. You have a house. You have options. You have a way out. We talked for a few more minutes. Then she hung up because Rob had gotten out of the shower. I couldn't sleep all night. The next few days were torture. Shelley called me every day, but the calls were brief, tense. I could hear in her voice that something wasn't right. How is everything going? I would ask her. Fine, Mum. Everything is fine. But I knew it wasn't true. On the 5th day of their honeymoon, she called me crying. Mum, I need to tell you something. Last night, Rob and I had a horrible argument. He told me that the gift you gave me was manipulation, that you are turning me against him, that no true wife needs to have property in her name because she should trust her husband. I gripped the phone so tightly that my knuckles turned white. And what did you tell him? I told him it wasn't true, that you were just protecting me. And then he told me that if I didn't sell the house and put the money in a joint account with him, it was because I didn't trust him, that if I didn't trust him, then why did we get married? Shelley. He didn't speak to me all night, Mum. He slept on the suite's sofa. This morning we packed in silence. Our flight back is tomorrow, and I don't know what to do. My love, listen to me. What Rob is doing has a name. It's called emotional manipulation. He is making you feel guilty for something that is not your fault. He is punishing you for having something that is yours. But Mum, maybe he's right. Maybe I should trust him more. Trusting doesn't mean handing over everything. Trusting doesn't mean giving up your security. Trusting doesn't mean putting yourself in a position of complete vulnerability. She cried and cried. I don't know what to do. Yes, you do, my love. Deep down you know. But you are afraid. And it's okay to be afraid. But don't let fear make you make decisions that are going to hurt you. We hung up. I sat in the kitchen, staring at the cup of coffee cooling in front of me. I thought about calling Rob, about telling him exactly what I thought of him, about yelling at him that my daughter was not his property, but I didn't, because Shelley needed to learn to defend herself. I could give her the tools, the house, the security, but the strength to use them, that she had to find herself. The next day, Mrs. Cunningham, Mr. Ernest and I went to pick them up at the airport. An awkward scene, if there ever was one. Mrs. Cunningham didn't speak to me. She behaved as if I were invisible. Mr. Ernest, on the other hand, greeted me warmly. How have you been, Margaret? Worried? I know. Me too. When Shelley and Rob emerged from the immigration area, I could immediately see that something had changed. They walked separately. He was ahead, she was behind, as if they were two strangers who happened to take the same flight. Shelley hugged me tightly. She was thinner. She had dark circles under her eyes. My love, are you okay? I am now, Mum. Rob greeted his parents. He completely ignored my presence. In the parking lot, Mrs. Cunningham approached them. Children, come have dinner at the house today. We need to talk about your plans, about where you're going to live. Rob nodded immediately. Yes, Mum. Let's go. But Shelley said, No, thank you, mother-in-law. I'm very tired. I want to go home and rest. Your house? Mrs. Cunningham asked with venom in her voice. Are you referring to the house your mother bought to control you? And then Shelley did something I will never forget. She straightened up. She lifted her chin. She looked her mother-in-law directly in the eyes. And she said, I'm referring to my house, the house that is in my name, the house where my husband and I are going to live. And if he has a problem with that, then we have bigger problems than deciding where to have dinner. The silence that followed was absolute. Rob looked at her with wide eyes. Mr. Ernest smiled slightly. Mrs. Cunningham turned red as a tomato. And I felt like I could breathe for the first time in days. My daughter had found her voice. I still wonder if I did the right thing. What about you? What would you have done in my place? The Brooklyn Heights house was empty when we arrived. Shelley had insisted we go directly from the airport. Rob drove the BMW in silence, his jaw clenched. I followed him in a taxi. When we arrived, the afternoon sun illuminated the bougainvillea growing over the wall. The fountain in the patio sang softly. Everything looked exactly as I had imagined that first time I saw the property. Shelley got out of the car and stood in front of the main door. It was solid walnut wood, with a wrought iron knocker shaped like a crescent moon. It's beautiful, Mum, she whispered. I took the keys out of my purse. 2 sets, one for her, another spare one for me, just for safety. It's yours, my love. All yours. Rob took the suitcases out of the car with jerky movements. He dropped them at the entrance with more force than necessary. Are you going to let us in, or are we going to stand here, admiring the facade? His voice was sharp. I opened the door. The interior smelled new, of fresh paint and possibilities. The living room had tile floors. The windows overlooked the yard. There was a small dining room connected to the kitchen. Everything was empty, of course. There was no furniture yet. I thought you could decorate it to your liking, I told Shelley. Choose your own furniture. Truly make this place yours. She walked through every room, touching the walls, looking out the windows, discovering every corner. Her eyes shone in a way I hadn't seen in weeks. Rob, on the other hand, walked with his hands in his pockets, examining everything with a look of displeasure. It's small, he finally said. It has 3 bedrooms, 2 full bathrooms, a living room, dining room, kitchen, and a yard, I replied. For a young couple, it's more than enough. My apartment on the Upper East Side is bigger. This is your home, not a rented apartment. He looked at me with cold eyes. It's not their home, it's Shelley's. You made sure of that, didn't you? Exactly. We went up to the 2nd floor. The main bedroom had that balcony I had liked so much. From there, you could see the fountain, surrounded by ferns and small white flowers that I had planted myself a week before the wedding. Shelley walked out onto the balcony. The wind moved her hair. For a moment, she looked like a girl again. My girl. Mum, this is perfect. Rob walked into the bedroom, looked around, and let out a dry laugh. Perfect. It doesn't even have enough closet space for all my clothes. You can put in an additional closet, I suggested, or use one of the other bedrooms as a dressing room. Or we could sell this house and buy something better, something that belongs to both of us. The silence that followed was heavy. Shelley turned from the balcony. We are not selling the house, Rob. Why not? If you really trusted me. This has nothing to do with trust, she interrupted him. Her voice was firm but tired. It has to do with the fact that this is the first thing in my life that is completely mine. Can you understand that? What I understand is that your mother manipulated both of us. My mother protected me. Why is it so hard for you to see the difference? I cleared my throat. I think it's best if I leave you alone. You have a lot to talk about. I went downstairs quickly. I could hear their voices rising. I didn't want to be there. They needed to resolve this between themselves. Before leaving, I left the second set of keys on the kitchen sink, and I also left an envelope. Inside were $5,000. It wasn't much, but it was something for them to start buying the basics. Furniture, kitchen utensils, curtains. The taxi was waiting for me outside. The driver was leaning against the car, smoking a cigarette. "Everything all right, ma'am?" "Everything's fine," I lied. During the ride back to my apartment, I wondered if I had done the right thing. If maybe Miss Cunningham was right. If maybe my gift had been a form of manipulation. But then I thought of Lucy, of how she had lost everything, of how she had returned to our parents' house with nothing, no options, no dignity, and I knew I had done the right thing. The next few days were strange. Shelley called me infrequently. When she did, her voice sounded flat. "How are things going?" "Fine, Mum." "Have you bought furniture yet?" "Some." Rob insists that everything be a certain brand. He says he can't live with common furniture. "And what do you think?" "I think we don't have money for designer furniture, but he doesn't want to listen." One Friday afternoon, 2 weeks after they returned from the honeymoon, I went to visit them without calling ahead again. I carried a large pot of chili that I had made the day before. I also brought fresh cornbread from a bakery near my house. I rang the doorbell several times before Shelley opened. I was startled when I saw her. Her hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail. She was wearing sweatpants and an old t-shirt. But what alarmed me most were her eyes. They were red and swollen. "My dear, what happened?" "Nothing, Mum. I'm just tired." "Don't lie to me." She glanced back toward the inside of the house and then lowered her voice. "Rob isn't here. He went to his parents' house." "And why didn't you go?" "Because they don't invite me anymore. Mrs. Cunningham says that as long as I live in this house, I'm not welcome at hers." I felt rage rise in my throat like bile. That woman. "It's okay, Mum. Really, I prefer not to go. Every time I go, she makes me feel small." We went into the house. There was some furniture already. A grey sofa in the living room, a glass coffee table. In the dining room, a light wood table with 4 chairs. Everything looked very impersonal, like a furniture showroom. No photographs, no colour, no life. "Where are your things?" I asked. "Your books, your plants, those embroidered pillows you liked so much?" "Rob says they don't match the style of the house." Rob says, I repeated the words bitterly. "And what do you say?" She sat on the sofa and hugged her knees. "I don't know what to say, Mum. Every time I suggest something, he rejects it. He says I have no taste, that he knows better because he grew up surrounded by beautiful things." I sat next to her and hugged her. "My love, this is your house, yours, not his. If you want to fill it with embroidered pillows and plants and photos in coloured frames, it's your decision. But we live together. I have to consider what he wants." Considering doesn't mean completely cancelling yourself out. Considering means reaching agreements. It means that sometimes things are the way you want and sometimes the way he wants. Not that it's always the way he wants. We heated the chili in the kitchen. The kitchen at least looked more used. There were pots and pans, spices in an organizer, a jar with wooden spoons. "At least here he lets me do what I want," Shelley said with a sad smile. "He says the kitchen is my territory." How generous of him. I couldn't help the sarcasm. We ate together at the dining room table. The chili was good, as always. The cornbread was warm and soft. I miss you, Mum, she said suddenly. I miss living with you. I miss our talks in the kitchen. I miss you braiding my hair before bed. I miss you too, my love. But this is your life now, your marriage. You have to make it work. And if it doesn't work, the question hung in the air between us, then you have options. This house, your education, your ability. You are not trapped. She nodded slowly, but I could see in her eyes that she didn't entirely believe me. Rob arrived around 7 hours 0 minutes that evening. He walked through the door with that air of owning the world that I already knew well. Margaret, he greeted me without smiling. I didn't know you were coming. I brought food for you. I already ate at my parents' house. Real food. The implication was clear. My chili wasn't real food. I got up and started collecting the dishes. Well, I'm leaving now. I'll let you rest. Shelley walked me to the door. When Rob couldn't hear us, I whispered, if you need me, no matter the time, you call me. Understood? Understood, Mum. I hugged her tight, very tight. I love you. I love you too. In the taxi ride back, I cried. I cried because my daughter was suffering and I couldn't do anything. I cried because the marriage she had been so excited about was turning into a cage. I cried because I knew things were going to get worse before they got better. The weeks passed. Shelley kept calling me, but less and less. When we talked, it was brief. How are you? Fine. How are things with Rob? Fine. Are you sure? Yes, Mum. Don't worry. But I worried. I worried all the time. One Saturday morning, a month and a half after the wedding, my phone rang. It was Mr. Ernest. Margaret, I need to talk to you. Tell me, Mr. Ernest. Not over the phone. Can you meet us today? Me and my daughter, Gabrielle. Your daughter? Yes, the one I mentioned at the wedding, the one in an unhappy marriage. She wants to meet you. We agreed to meet at a coffee shop in Park Slope. I arrived first, ordered a black coffee, and sat by the window. Mr. Ernest arrived 10 minutes later with a woman in her 40s. She was thin, with brown hair pulled back in a bun. She was elegantly dressed, but she looked tired. Margaret, this is my daughter, Gabrielle. Gabrielle, this is Margaret Fields, Shelley's mother. We shook hands. Hers was cold. Nice to meet you, she said softly. We sat down. Mr. Ernest ordered coffee for himself and tea for his daughter. My father told me what you did, Gabrielle began. About the house for your daughter. I wish my mother had done something like that for me. I looked at Mr. Ernest. He nodded, encouraging her to continue. Gabrielle took a deep breath. I've been married for 15 years to a man who abuses me. Not physically, he has never laid a hand on me, but emotionally he has destroyed me. Her voice broke a little. She paused, took a sip of tea. When I got married, I worked at my father's company. I was the marketing director. I liked my job. I was good at what I did. She was excellent, Mr. Ernest corrected. My husband, Morris, started saying that I didn't need to work, that he earned enough, that a wife should be at home. I quit my job because I thought that would make us happy. She paused for a long time. But it didn't make us happy. He kept finding things to complain about, that the house wasn't clean enough, that the food wasn't like his mother's, that I had become boring because I had nothing to talk about except the home. Gabrielle, I took her hand across the table. It was trembling. 3 years ago I asked for a divorce, and I found out I had nothing. The house is in his name, the cars, the bank accounts, everything. I haven't worked in 12 years. I don't have recent experience. I don't have my own savings. And your father's company? Maurice convinced my mother that I shouldn't return, that it would be awkward, that it was better for me to stay at home. Mr. Ernest closed his eyes. I could see the pain on his face. I should have defended her more, he said. I should have stood up to Constance, but I didn't, and now my daughter is trapped. I'm not trapped, Gabrielle said with a thin voice. I'm just out of options. That's why I wanted you to talk to her, Mr. Ernest explained. So you could see what can happen, so your Shelley doesn't end up like this. Shelley has the house, I said. She has options. But for how long? Gabrielle asked. How long before Rob convinces her to sell it, or to put his name on the deed? My husband also started this way, little by little, asking for small things, making me feel selfish for wanting to keep something of my own. Her words chilled my blood. What are you telling me? I'm telling you to watch your daughter, to be vigilant, because men like Rob, like my brother, don't change. They just become more subtle. Mr. Ernest looked at me with tired eyes. Rob is my son and I love him, but I'm not blind. I know what he's like. I know how his mother raised him, and I'm afraid for Shelley. Me too, I admitted. Gabrielle squeezed my hand. Don't let your daughter end up like me, please. We stayed there, in that Park Slope coffee shop, 3 people united by the fear that the women we loved were in danger. When I returned home that afternoon, I called Shelley. My love, I need to see you. Mum, I can't right now. Rob and I are going to the movies. To the movies? That's great. What are you going to see? I don't know. He's going to choose. And you don't want to choose? I don't really care. Anyway, I never liked the same movies as him. That phrase, that simple phrase, told me everything I needed to know. My daughter was losing herself. Shelley, yes, Mum, I love you, and I'm here. I will always be here. I know, Mum. I love you too. We hung up. I sat in my living room, looking at the photographs on the wall. Shelley as a child, smiling without a care. Shelley at her graduation, proud and happy. Shelley on her wedding day, beautiful, but with a hint of fear in her eyes that I hadn't wanted to see. And I understood something. Giving her the house had only been the first step. I had placed the tools for her freedom in her hands. But now I had to teach her how to use them, because a cage doesn't need walls when the person in the cage doesn't know she can fly. As I tell all this, I wonder where you might be listening to me. Write the name of your city in the comments. 3 months after the wedding, things had worsened in ways I hadn't anticipated. Shelley had stopped dressing up as before. She no longer wore those colourful dresses she liked so much. Now she only wore black, grey, or beige, neutral colours, colours that didn't draw attention. Well, Rob says bright colours are for young women, she explained one day when I asked her. He says that now that I'm a married woman, I should look more serious, more mature. You are 26 years old, Shelley. You are young. I know, Mum, but it's easier this way. If I dress the way he likes, we don't argue. She had also stopped seeing her friends. Laura, her best friend since high school, had called me a week earlier. Mrs. Fields, is Shelley okay? She doesn't answer my messages anymore. The last time I invited her for coffee, she said she couldn't because Rob didn't want her to go out alone. Rob didn't want her to go out alone? Yes. She said he thought it was inappropriate for a married woman to be out with single friends, that it gave a bad impression. Every new piece of information was like a stab in the heart. One Thursday afternoon, I decided to visit her without warning again. I needed to see with my own eyes how my daughter really was. I rang the doorbell several times. No one answered. I took out my set of emergency keys and went in. The house was dimly lit. All the curtains were closed. It smelled stale. Shelley? I heard a noise on the second floor. I went up quickly. I found her in the main bedroom, sitting on the floor of the balcony, hugging her knees. She was staring into space. My dear, what are you doing here in the dark? She looked at me as if she didn't recognize me for a moment. Then her eyes focused. Mum, I didn't know you were coming. You didn't open when I knocked. I didn't hear. I sat down next to her on the floor. It was cold. The rainy season was beginning, and the sky was grey. What's wrong, my love? And don't tell me nothing, because it's not nothing. She remained silent for a long time. Then, in a voice so small I could barely hear her, she said, I'm pregnant. The world stopped for a moment. Pregnant? 2 months. And Rob knows? Yes. And what did he say? She started to cry. Deep sobs that shook her entire body. He said that now I wouldn't be able to work, that I would have to dedicate myself completely to the house and the baby. He said that it was time to sell this house, because with a baby, we're going to need something bigger, something on the Upper East Side, near his parents. I felt my blood boil. Sell the house? He says that with what we get from this house and what he has saved, we can buy a nice apartment. In both our names, of course, because now we are going to be a real family. Shelley, look at me. She looked up. Her eyes were red and swollen. Don't sell the house. But Mum. No, don't sell the house. I said every word clearly. This house is your insurance, it's your freedom, it's your way out. Don't sell it. But we're going to have a baby. Rob is right. We need something bigger. This house has 3 bedrooms, one for you, one for the baby, and one for guests. It's more than enough. Rob says the neighborhood isn't good, that Brooklyn Heights is too far from everything. Rob says, always Rob says. And what do you say, Shelley? What do you want? She was silent, and in that silence I understood something terrible. My daughter no longer knew what she wanted. She no longer knew who she was. Listen to me closely. I took her hands. I know you're scared. I know a baby changes everything, but don't let fear make you give up the only thing that is yours. Rob has his properties, he has his money, he has everything, but this house is yours, only yours. I don't want to fight with him, Mum. I'm so tired of fighting. I know, my dear, I know. I hugged her as she cried. Her body was thinner. I could feel her ribs. Have you eaten today? I'm not hungry. Are you seeing a doctor? Rob wants me to go to his mother's gynecologist, a doctor on the Upper East Side. And do you want to go to that doctor? I don't know him. Then let's find another one that you choose, one you feel comfortable with. Rob is going to get angry. Rob is not the one who is pregnant. You are. You decide. For the first time in that conversation, I saw a flicker of something in her eyes. I don't know if it was hope or just a spark of the Shelley I knew. That night I stayed to sleep at the house. Shelley didn't protest. I think she needed company. I made chicken soup with vegetables, nothing too heavy. She ate little, but she ate something. We were watching television when Rob arrived around 10 hours, 0 minutes. Margaret, he greeted me with that cold tone that was now habitual. What are you doing here? I came to see my daughter. I see. Well, you've seen her. Now you can leave. Shelley was sitting on the sofa, very still. I could see her tense up. Actually, I'm going to stay tonight, I said. Shelley doesn't feel well, and I want to be here. It's not necessary, I can take care of my wife. I'm sure you can, but I'm staying anyway. We stared at each other. It was a battle of wills. Rob, Shelley said, her voice trembling. Let her stay. Please. He clenched his jaw. Then he went upstairs without saying a word. Thank you, Mum, Shelley whispered. You don't have anything to thank me for. I slept in the guest bedroom. Or rather, I didn't sleep. I stayed awake, listening. I heard when Rob entered the main bedroom. I heard their voices. He spoke in a low but harsh tone. She answered in monosyllables. I couldn't hear the exact words, but I didn't need to hear them. I knew that tone. It was the tone of a man who is used to getting his way. At 3 hours 0 minutes, I heard someone coming down the stairs. I peered out. It was Shelley. She went to the kitchen. She opened the refrigerator. She stood in front of the light, looking at the contents without taking anything out. I got up and went downstairs. Can't you sleep? She jumped. She hadn't heard me. Mum, you scared me. I'm sorry, my love. Do you want me to make you something? Tea? Warm milk? I don't know what I want. She sat down in one of the dining room chairs. I put milk with cinnamon to heat. Rob is very angry, she said after a while. He says you are turning me against him, that before the wedding I was different. And what do you think? I think everything was easier before, when we were just dating, when he was sweet and attentive. People don't change overnight, Shelley. They just stop pretending. Do you think he was pretending? I poured the milk into 2 mugs. I sat across from her. I think that when a man is courting, he shows his best version, and when he feels he has you, he shows his real version. Then the Rob I knew wasn't real. Maybe he was real, but he wasn't complete. Now you are seeing the whole picture. She took a sip of milk. A tear rolled down her cheek. I don't know if I can do this, Mum. Being a wife, being a mother, living like this. You don't have to live like this. There are other ways. Get a divorce? We just got married. I'm pregnant. I can't get a divorce. I'm not saying divorce him. I'm saying you set boundaries, that you let him know he can't treat you as if you were his property. It's easier said than done. I know, my dear. Believe me, I know. We finished the milk in silence. Then I walked her back to her bedroom. Mum? Yes. Were you happy with Dad? The question took me by surprise. Very. Your dad was a good man. But did you have problems? All marriages have problems, my love. The difference is how you resolve them. Your dad and I talked. We listened to each other. We respected each other. Neither of us tried to control the other. Rob says controlling is another form of loving, that when someone loves you, they want to know where you are, what you're doing, who you're talking to. That's not love, Shelley. That's possession, and there's a huge difference. She nodded slowly. Good night, Mum. Good night, my love. The next morning, I woke up early. I went downstairs and made coffee. I also made scrambled eggs with green beans. Rob came down first. He was dressed in a perfectly ironed grey suit. He smelled of expensive cologne. Good morning, I said. Good morning, he replied without looking at me. He poured himself coffee and sat at the table with his phone. Rob, we need to talk. We have nothing to talk about. I think we do. It's about Shelley. My wife is not your problem. She is my daughter. She will always be my problem. He looked up from his phone. His eyes were cold. Look, Margaret, I know you think you know me, that you know exactly what kind of man I am, but you don't know anything. I know enough. Oh, yeah? Do you know that I love your daughter? That I would do anything for her? What I see is a man who is trying to isolate his wife, to cut her off from her friends, her family, from everything that makes her feel like herself. What you see is what you want to see. Then prove me wrong. I don't have to prove anything to you. Just then, Shelley came downstairs. She was wearing an old nightgown, her hair messy. She looked vulnerable. "Good morning," she said in a small voice. Rob stood up immediately. His attitude changed completely. Suddenly he was all smiles. "My love, how did you sleep? Did you sleep well?" "Yes." "Do you want me to prepare you something? Fruit? Yogurt?" "I already made breakfast," I said. Rob gave me a quick glance. Then he smiled at Shelley again. "I have to go. Important meeting. But I'll call you later, okay?" He kissed her on the forehead. Then he left without saying goodbye to me. Shelley and I ate breakfast in silence. She ate a little more than the night before. That was good. "Mum, I need to tell you something." "Tell me." "Yesterday before you arrived, Rob gave me a surprise." "What kind of surprise?" "He spoke with a real estate agent. He already has 2 apartments listed for us to see on the Upper East Side, near Mrs. Cunningham's house." I felt my stomach clench. "And what did you say?" "I told him I had to think about it first. He got angry. He said any woman would be happy to move to the Upper East Side, that only I would find reasons to complain." "Shelley, listen to me. You don't have to sell this house. You don't have to do anything you don't want to do." "But he already spoke to the agent. He already made plans. Plans without consulting you. Plans without your consent. That tells you everything you need to know." She played with the green beans on her plate. "Sometimes I think Mother Constance is right, that I am difficult, that any other woman would be more grateful. Mrs. Cunningham is a bitter woman who raised a son who thinks women are objects. Don't listen to her. She is your husband's mother, your baby's grandmother, and that doesn't make her wise, or good, or worthy of your respect if she doesn't respect you." After breakfast, I stayed for a while longer. I helped Shelley clean up. I noticed how she avoided certain topics, how she changed the conversation when I asked about her plans. Around noon, her phone rang. It was Rob. I could hear his voice from where I was. Loud, insistent. "Yes, she's leaving now." "No, nothing happened." "Yes, I promise." "All right. I love you too." He hung up and looked at me with guilty eyes. "Rob wants you to come less often. He says we need space to be a real couple." "And what do you want?" "I want everyone to be happy." "That's not an answer. It's the only one I have, Mum." I said goodbye with a heavy heart. I knew things were going to get worse. I could feel it. Over the next few weeks, Shelley stopped answering my calls as frequently. When she did, her answers were short, evasive. "I'm fine, Mum. Everything is fine. Don't worry." But I worried. I worried every minute of every day. One Saturday morning, a month and a half after the wedding, my phone rang. It was Laura, Shelley's friend. "Mrs. Fields, I saw Shelley at the supermarket." "And how was she?" "Bad. She looked very thin, and when I tried to talk to her, Rob appeared out of nowhere. He practically dragged her away, as if I were a danger." "Thank you for telling me, Laura." "Mom, something is not right. You have to do something." "I know. I'm trying." But the truth was, I didn't know what to do. I couldn't force my daughter to leave her husband. I couldn't force her to set boundaries. I couldn't live her life for her. I could only be there, waiting, ready for when she needed me, and praying that it wasn't too late. That night, before going to sleep, I took out the deed to the house. I read it again, every word, every clause. The house was in Shelley's name, only Shelley's. Rob had no legal right to it. But legal rights don't matter when someone has convinced you that you have no right to have rights. And that was exactly what Rob was doing, convincing my daughter that she didn't deserve to have something of her own, that being a good wife meant giving up everything, that true love was total sacrifice. I put the papers away and turned off the light. Outside, it started to rain, one of those heavy rains that announces a storm. And I, lying in bed, thought of my daughter, of my granddaughter or grandson on the way, of the future that looked darker and darker, and I wondered if everything I had done had been worthwhile, or if I had only delayed the inevitable. 2 more months passed. 2 months in which I barely saw my daughter. 2 months in which every phone call was shorter than the last. 2 months in which I felt I was losing her. Shelley was now 4 months pregnant. Her belly was just starting to show. I only knew because one afternoon I managed to convince her to meet me to go shopping. "You need maternity clothes," I had told her on the phone. "Rob says it's still too early." "Rob is not the one who is pregnant. Come on, let's buy some pretty things." She agreed with that tired voice that was already so familiar to me. We met at a shopping centre in Chelsea. When I saw her arrive, I had to control the impulse to cry. She was very thin. Her face looked drawn. She had deep, dark circles. Her face was dull and lifeless. "My love," I hugged her tightly. "Hi, Mom." We went into a maternity store. There were nice dresses, colourful, comfortable ones. I started pulling out options. "Look at this blue one. You would love it. And this yellow one. Imagine it with your hair down." "Mom, no." "No what?" "I can't buy colours. Rob prefers that I wear black or grey. He says it's more elegant." "Shelley, you're going to be a mother. You're not going to a funeral." "I know, but it's easier this way without arguments." The sales clerk looked at us curiously. I pretended not to notice. We ended up buying 3 dresses, all black, all lifeless, just like my daughter had become. We went to have something at a coffee shop in the plaza. She ordered chamomile tea. I ordered coffee. "How have you been feeling? Nausea? Dizziness?" "At first, yes, better now. Have you gone to the doctor?" "Yes, the gynecologist Mrs. Cunningham recommended." "And how is he? Do you like him? Do you feel comfortable with him?" "He's professional." That word. Professional. Not kind. Not understanding. Professional. "Does Rob go with you to the appointments?" "Sometimes. When he can. He says his job is very demanding. But the job of being a husband is also demanding, especially when your wife is pregnant." She didn't say anything. She just stirred her tea with the spoon, over and over, a nervous gesture she had never had before. "Mum, there's something I need to tell you." My heart raced. "Tell me." "Rob found a buyer for the house." The world stopped. "What?" "It's a young couple. They have 2 children. They are willing to pay a good price. Rob says that with that money and what he has, we can buy the apartment on the Upper East Side that he likes so much." "Shelley, no. I already signed the preliminary papers." I felt like I was running out of air. "You already signed?" "Rob told me it was just to show we were interested, that we could still back out." "And do you want to back out?" She started to cry. Right there, in the middle of the coffee shop, with people around. I don't know what I want, Mum. Rob says it's best for the baby, that on the Upper East Side there are better schools, better parks, better everything. That I'm selfish for clinging to a house just because you gave it to me. That house is yours. It's your security. It's your freedom. Rob says freedom in marriage is a myth, that when two people get married, they become one, and what's mine is his, and what's his is mine. Then why is the new apartment going to be in both your names, but he didn't put his house in both your names when you got married? She was silent. I could see she had never asked herself that question. She hadn't thought about that. Well, think about it now. Think hard. Why does he want you to sell what is yours to buy something that will belong to both of you? Why don't you buy the new apartment and keep the house as an investment? He says we don't need two properties. He has more than two properties, Shelley. He has the apartment where he lived when you were dating. He has land in the Hamptons that his father left him. He has shares in the family business. But the only thing he wants to get rid of is what is yours. I watched as the ideas began to connect in her mind, how she began to see what I had seen from the beginning. "Oh God," she whispered, "you're right. My love, I need you to promise me something. Don't sign anything else. Nothing. Until you speak with a lawyer." "A lawyer? Rob will think I don't trust him. And maybe you shouldn't trust him. At least not blindly." She wiped her tears with a napkin. "What am I going to do, Mum? I already signed those preliminary papers. Tomorrow we will go to Attorney Miller, the lawyer who helped me with the deed to the house. He will tell us what can be done. Rob can't find out. He won't find out unless you tell him." We stayed for a while longer at the coffee shop. Shelley started talking, and once she started, she couldn't stop. She told me things that chilled my blood. How Rob checked her phone every night while she slept. How he had asked her for the passwords to all her social networks. How he would get angry if it took her more than 10 minutes to answer his messages. How he had started criticizing her body, her weight, her way of dressing, her way of speaking. How Mrs. Cunningham came to the house without warning and checked how clean it was. How she would leave her little notes where she had found dust or disorder. How Rob had suggested that she quit her job, even though she had only been working for a year as a graphic designer at a small agency. He says that with the baby, I won't be able to concentrate, that it's better for me to quit now and dedicate myself to preparing everything for when it's born. And do you want to quit? I like my job. They don't pay much, but I like it. It makes me feel useful. Then don't quit. But Rob says, Rob says, Rob says, Rob says. I gently but firmly hit the table. And what do you say, Shelley? When are you going to start saying what you want? She looked at me with frightened eyes, like a little girl. I don't know how. Then we will learn together. The next day we went to see Attorney Miller. His office was in an old building in Park Slope. We went up 3 flights of narrow stairs. The lawyer was a man about 60 years old, with thick glasses and a completely white beard. He received us warmly. "Mrs. Fields, Miss Shelley, come in, come in." I explained the situation. He listened carefully, making some notes in a notebook. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair and sighed. "I see. Well, first things first. Did you bring the papers you signed?" Shelley took some documents out of her purse. The lawyer read them carefully. After a few minutes, he looked up. "This is a letter of intent. It is not legally binding. You can back out without any problem." Shelley let out a sigh of relief. "Really?" "Really. But there is something more important we should discuss. This house is deeded only in your name, correct?" "Yes." And there is a special power of attorney that prevents your husband from having rights to it. Correct? I need you to know something. To sell that house, you need to sign in front of a notary public, and the notary is obligated to ensure that you understand what you are doing, that you are not being pressured. What if I already signed in front of the notary? Did you already do that? No, not yet. Rob said we had an appointment next week. The lawyer leaned forward. Shelley, look at me. If you do not want to sell that house, no one can force you. Your husband has no legal right to it. None. Do you understand? But we are married. And still, the power of attorney your mother established is very clear. That property is yours, and yours alone. Rob says I'm selfish. Rob is trying to manipulate you into giving up your security. Shelley started crying again. I don't know what to do. If I don't sell the house, he will be so angry. I don't know what will happen. The lawyer looked at me. Then he looked at Shelley. My dear, has your husband threatened you? Has he laid a hand on you? No, never. He's not violent. But are you afraid of his reaction? She didn't answer immediately. That was already an answer. I'm afraid that everything will get worse, she finally said. That he will be angry. That he will punish me with silence. That he will go back to his mother's house and leave me alone. And would that be so bad? The lawyer asked softly. Being alone? I'm pregnant. I can't be alone. You wouldn't be alone, I said. You have me. You have the house. You have options. The lawyer took a card from his desk. Look, I'm going to give you the number of a colleague of mine. She is a lawyer specializing in family law. If at any time you feel you need advice about your marriage, about custody, about anything, you call her, okay? Shelley took the card with trembling hands. Thank you. We left the office with more questions than answers. But at least Shelley now knew she had rights, that she wasn't completely defenseless. I walked her to the bus stop for the ride back to Brooklyn Heights. Before she got on, I hugged her. I love you, my dear, and I will be here, always. I know, Mum. I love you too. I watched the bus drive away. Shelley waved to me from the window, and I had a bad feeling, a feeling in my stomach that I couldn't ignore. That night, at 11 hours 30 minutes, my phone rang. It was Shelley, crying so hard she could barely speak. Mum, I need you to come. Please. What happened? Are you okay? Is it the baby? Rob knows. He knows we went to the lawyer. I don't know how he found out, but he knows. Where are you? At the house. He left. He said horrible things, Mum. He said I was ungrateful, that he had been so good to me and I was repaying him like this, that you had brainwashed me. I'm on my way. Don't move. Do you hear me? Don't move. Hurry, Mum. Please. I hung up and rushed out. I didn't even change out of my pajamas. I put a sweater over them and almost flew down the stairs of my building. There were no taxis on the street. I had to walk 4 blocks to a main avenue. I finally found one. Brooklyn Heights, Magnolia's Lane. And hurry, please. The journey was endless. Every red light was torture. Every slow car was an unbearable obstacle. When we finally arrived, I gave the taxi driver $20 and told him to keep the change. I ran toward the house. The door was ajar. Shelley? I found her sitting on the stairs, hugging her knees. She was trembling. I sat next to her and hugged her. I'm here now. It's over. It's not over, Mum. This is just beginning. She was right. This was just beginning, and the worst was yet to come. I stayed with Shelley that night. I wasn't going to leave her alone. Rob didn't return. His phone rang and rang, but she didn't answer. Let it ring, I told her. Let him calm down first. He's not going to calm down, Mum. He's furious. I've never seen him like this. What exactly happened? How did he find out? She wiped her tears with the back of her hand. I don't know. I got home around 6. He was already here. That was strange because normally he gets home after 8. He was sitting in the living room with the lights off, just sitting there, in the dark. A shiver ran down my spine. And what did he say? At first, nothing. He just looked at me. Then he asked where I had been. I told him I had gone shopping with you. He asked me what I had bought. I showed him the dresses. He threw them on the floor. Shelley trembled as she recounted. Then he said, "Did you go shopping or did you go to a lawyer?" I froze, Mum. How did he know? I didn't tell anyone. Only you. Did someone see you? An acquaintance? I don't know. Maybe. The lawyer's office is in Park Slope. There are many restaurants and coffee shops there. Someone could have seen us and told Rob. Or maybe he's following you. She looked at me with wide eyes. Do you think he would follow me? It wouldn't be the first time a jealous husband follows his wife. Rob isn't jealous. He's protective. My love, there is a very thin line between protection and control, and Rob crossed it a long time ago. I made herbal tea for both of us. We sat on the sofa in the living room. Outside, it had started raining again. The sound of the water against the windows was the only thing that broke the silence. What else did he tell you? He said I was ungrateful, that any woman would be happy to have a husband like him, that he gave me everything and I only repaid him with mistrust. I told him I had only gone to consult about the papers I signed, that I wanted to make sure everything was all right. And what did he say? He yelled. I had never heard him yell like that. He said we didn't need lawyers getting involved in our marriage, that family problems are resolved in the family, that you had turned me against him from the beginning. I didn't turn you against him. I only gave you tools to protect yourself. I know, Mum. Now I know. Shelley's phone vibrated. It was a text from Rob. What does it say? She read aloud. I'm at my parents' house. I need to think. We'll talk tomorrow. But I want you to know that this has to end. You are either completely with me or you are not with me at all. You decide. It's an ultimatum. Yes. And what are you going to do? Shelley put her hands on her belly. Her small belly was barely noticeable under the loose t-shirt. I don't know. I have a baby on the way. I can't raise a child alone. You wouldn't be alone. You would have me, and you would have your house, and your job. Rob wants me to quit my job. Of course he does, because as long as you have a job, you have independence, you have your own money, you have a life outside of him. Mum, you sound like you hate Rob. I don't hate him. I don't even really know him. But I hate what he's doing to you. I hate seeing how you are slowly disappearing. She started crying again. She cried so much that night that I thought she wouldn't have any tears left. At 3 hours 0 minutes, she finally fell asleep. I stayed awake, sitting in a chair next to the sofa where she slept. I didn't want to leave her alone for a second. I thought about everything that had happened, about the wedding, about the maid's uniform, about Rob's face when he saw the deed to the house, about how everything had gradually gotten worse. And I wondered what would have happened if I hadn't given her the house, if everything would have been different, if maybe Rob would have been a better husband if he hadn't felt threatened. But then I thought of Gabrielle, Rob's sister, of how she had lost everything, of how her mother hadn't protected her. and I knew I had done the right thing. The next morning, Shelley woke up with swollen eyes. I made coffee and found bread in the cupboard. We ate breakfast in silence. "I have to go to work," she said suddenly. "Are you sure? Can you call in and say you're sick?" "No, I need to go. I need to do something normal, something that reminds me who I am." I understood her. Sometimes the most important thing in the midst of chaos is to maintain a routine, something to anchor you to reality. "Do you want me to go with you?" "No, Mum. I'm fine. Really. I'll take you at least." "Okay." I took her by taxi to the agency where she worked. It was a small building in Midtown. Before getting out, she hugged me tight. "Thanks for staying last night. I will always stay when you need me." "I know." I watched her go into the building. She looked so fragile, so small. I went back to the Brooklyn Heights house. I needed to make sure everything was in order in case Rob returned. I picked up the dresses he had thrown on the floor. I folded them carefully and put them in the closet in the main bedroom. Then I went downstairs and washed the tea mugs from the night before. I tidied the kitchen. I took out the trash. I was finishing up when I heard someone open the front door. Rob. He burst in like a whirlwind. He was wearing the same clothes as the day before. He smelled of cigarettes and alcohol. His eyes were red. "Where is Shelley?" "At work." "Of course. Working. As if nothing happened." "Something did happen, Rob. And you know it." He looked at me with pure hatred. "You. This is all your fault." "No, this is your fault. For treating my daughter as if she were your property. She's my wife. Being a wife doesn't mean being a slave." "A slave," he laughed bitterly. "I gave her everything. A respectable last name, a good family, a future for her and her child. And you convinced her that I am the enemy." "I didn't have to convince her of anything. Your actions spoke for themselves." He walked up to me. Too close. I could smell his breath. "Listen to me closely, Margaret. Shelley is my wife. That baby is my child. And this house farce is going to end. She's going to sell. And we are going to buy something together, as it should be." "That is not your decision to make." "Oh, it isn't? I'm her husband. I have every right." "You have no right. The house is in her name. Only hers. And if she doesn't want to sell it, it won't be sold." "She already signed the papers." "She signed a letter of intent. It is not binding. Ask your lawyer if you don't believe me." I watched his face change. It turned red, then purple. "How do you know that?" "Because we went to a lawyer, a real one, who explained Shelley's rights to us." He hit the wall with his fist, so hard that it left a mark. "This is unbelievable. Unbelievable. My own wife going to lawyers behind my back." "She didn't go behind your back. It was to protect herself." "Protect herself? Protect herself from what? From me? I'm her husband. I love her." "Love doesn't control. Love doesn't isolate. Love doesn't manipulate. You don't know anything about love. You were widowed and became bitter, and now you want your daughter to end up the same way." Those words hurt, but I wasn't going to let him notice. My husband respected me every day of our life together. He never made me feel small. He never tried to control me. That is love, Rob. What you feel for Shelley is not love. It's a need for possession. Get out of my house. This is not your house, it's Shelley's. Get out. I didn't move. "I will leave, but listen to me closely. If you hurt my daughter, if you lay a hand on her, if you threaten or harm her in any way, I will personally see to it that you pay." "Are you threatening me?" I'm promising you. I walked out of the house with my head held high, but when I closed the door behind me, my legs were trembling. I had crossed a line. I had confronted Rob directly, and I knew there would be consequences. I called Shelley from a payphone on the corner. My dear, Rob is at the house. He arrived while I was there. What? What happened? We had a conversation. A strong conversation. I think it's better if you don't go home tonight. Stay with me. Mum, I have to go. It's my house. I can't run away. It's not running away. It's being smart. Let him calm down. I'm tired of waiting for him to calm down. It's always the same. He gets angry. I wait. He calms down halfway. And then we go back to the same thing. So, what are you going to do? I'm going home, and we're going to talk, like adults, like a couple. Mum, I love you, but I need to do this. I need to face him. At least let me take you. I can wait outside. No, this is between Rob and me. She hung up. I stood on that corner, phone in hand, feeling that I had just made a terrible mistake. I shouldn't have let her go alone. The hours passed. 6 hours, 0 minutes that evening. 7, 8. Shelley didn't call. At 9 hours, 0 minutes, I called. No answer. At 9 hours, 30 minutes, I called again. Nothing. At 10 hours, 0 minutes, I took a taxi back to Brooklyn Heights. When I got to the house, all the lights were off. I rang the doorbell. No one answered. I used my keys. Shelley? Rob? A heavy, unnatural silence. I ran up the stairs. The door to the main bedroom was locked. Shelley, open the door. I heard a sob from the other side. Mum, open the door, my love. I can't. Rob took the keys. He locked me in. I felt my blood boil. Where is he? I don't know. He left an hour ago. He said he needed air, but he locked me in here, with the lock on the outside. I'm going to break down the door. No, Mum. It's too thick. You won't be able to. She was right. It was a solid wood door. I'm calling the fire department. No, please. I've caused enough of a scene. The neighbors will. I don't give a damn about the neighbors. We'll get you out of there and then we'll see. I called the emergency number. I explained the situation. They told me they would send a unit. 20 minutes later, 2 firefighters arrived, young men in blue uniforms. What's the situation? My daughter is locked in that bedroom. Her husband locked her in. They looked at each other. They knew this kind of situation. Is she okay? Is she hurt? Shelley, my love, are you okay? Yes, Mum. I'm fine. Just scared. We're going to get her out, Mum, one of the firefighters said. It took them 10 minutes to force the door. When it finally opened, I ran inside. Shelley was sitting on the floor next to the bed, hugging her knees, just like that first time I found her like that. I hugged her so tightly I probably hurt her. It's over. You're out. The firefighters stayed for a moment. Miss, do you want us to call the police? What your husband did is illegal. It's deprivation of liberty. Shelley shook her head. No, I just want to leave here. Are you sure? Yes, please, I just want to leave. The firefighters left. I helped Shelley pack a suitcase, clothes, important documents, her toiletries. The house papers? I asked. In the study, in the top drawer of the desk. I ran downstairs. I found the documents, the deed, the power of attorney. Everything was there. I put them in my purse. When we left the house, it was almost 11 hours, 0 minutes that evening. The street was dark and quiet. The bougainvillea swayed in the wind. Shelley turned to look at the house one last time. I thought I was going to be happy here. You still can be, just not with him. I'm pregnant, Mum. 4 months. What am I going to do? You're going to be a mother. You're going to raise your child with dignity and love. And you're going to teach him or her that no one, ever, has the right to lock you in. That night, Shelley slept in my bed, just like when she was a child and had nightmares. And I stayed awake, watching, protecting, because I knew this wasn't over. Rob wasn't going to accept her leaving just like that. The storm was just beginning, and the worst was still to come. The next 3 days were hell. Rob called constantly. He left messages, some full of apologies, others full of threats. My love, forgive me. I don't know what came over me. I was so angry, so confused. Please come back. I promise it will be different. And then, 2 hours later, if you don't come back, I'm going to make you regret it. That baby is mine too. You can't take him away from me. My family has lawyers, the best ones. We'll take custody from you. Shelley listened to the messages and cried. I deleted each one after she heard it. He can't take custody from you, I told her. You have nothing to worry about. But his family has money, Mum. They have power. What if they can? They can't. You haven't done anything wrong. He was the one who locked you in. He was the one who abused you. On the 4th day, Mrs. Cunningham showed up at my door. She rang the doorbell at 10 hours 0 minutes. When I opened, she was standing there in her designer coat and dark glasses. I need to speak with Shelley. She doesn't want to talk to anyone from your family. I'm her mother-in-law. I have a right. You have no right. Leave. Margaret, don't be ridiculous. This can be fixed. You are a married couple. You have a baby on the way. You just need to talk. Your son locked my daughter in, with a lock, as if she were a prisoner. He was upset. Men do things when they are upset. That is not an excuse and never will be. You are the one who caused all this, with your damn house, with your need to control Shelley. I didn't lock her in. Your son did. Mrs. Cunningham pursed her lips. Rob is devastated. He doesn't eat. He doesn't sleep. He just cries and asks for her. Then let him come and ask for forgiveness on his knees. And even so, I don't know if she should forgive him. They are husband and wife, before God. God does not approve of abuse. She was silent for a moment. Then she took an envelope from her purse. This is an offer from my husband. An offer? If Shelley returns to Rob, my husband will give her an apartment in her name, only hers as compensation. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Are you telling me you want to buy my daughter? It's not buying her, it's securing her future. Her future is secured. She has a house, the one I gave her, and she has her dignity, which your son almost took from her. That house is not enough. Mr. Ernest is offering something much better. On the Upper East Side. 3 bedrooms, 2 parking spaces. I don't care if he's offering a palace. My daughter is not returning to a man who locked her in. Mrs. Cunningham put the envelope away. This is a mistake. We are all going to regret this. The only thing I regret is not having seen sooner what kind of family you are. She left without saying anything more. When I closed the door, I was trembling with rage. Shelley had heard everything from the living room. An apartment on the Upper East Side. It doesn't matter where it is. It's not worth your freedom. But, Mum, it's a good offer. And with the baby, you need to be safe, calm, not with a man who locks you in when you don't do what he wants. She sat on the sofa. She looked so tired. I don't know what to do. Yes, you do. Deep down, you know. That afternoon, we went to the lawyer Attorney Miller had recommended. Her name was Ms. Torres. She was about 40 years old and had a direct gaze that inspired confidence. We told her everything, from the wedding to the lock-in. She took notes without interrupting. When we finished, she looked up. You have a case for psychological abuse and deprivation of liberty. We can proceed with a divorce petition and request a restraining order. Restraining order? Shelley asked. Yes, so Rob can't get close to you. It's for your safety and the baby's. But he's the father of my son, and he can see his child, but with supervision, at least until he proves he is not a danger. Shelley started crying. This got out of control. We just wanted to be happy. I know, Ms. Torres said gently, but happiness cannot be built on fear, and you are afraid of your husband. That's not right. We left the office with papers to sign, a divorce petition, a request for alimony, a temporary restraining order. Everything was becoming real, very real. That night, Shelley finally made her decision. I'm going to get a divorce. Are you sure? No, but it's the right thing to do. For me, for my baby. I hugged her as tightly as I could. I'm proud of you. I'm so scared, Mom. I know, but I'm here, and I'm never going to leave you alone. The next day, we signed the papers. The lawyer presented everything to the judge. Rob received the notification 3 days later, and then the real hell began. Calls, texts, appearances at my building, calls to Shelley's work. But she held firm. I'm not coming back, she told him on the phone one night. I can't. You hurt me, Rob, and I need to protect myself. Protect yourself from me? I'm your husband. I love you. Love doesn't lock people in. Love doesn't control. My mum was right. Your mum destroyed you. We were happy until she put her ideas in your head. We weren't happy. I was unhappy. I was just so scared I couldn't admit it. She hung up, and for the first time in months, I saw something in her eyes that I hadn't seen in a long time. Peace. Not happiness yet, but peace. And that was enough for now. 6 months later, Shelley gave birth to a beautiful girl. She was named Ellen, after my mother. The birth was natural, without complications. I was there, holding her hand, wiping her forehead with a damp cloth. You did it, my love, you did it. When they placed the baby in her arms, Shelley cried, but this time they were tears of joy. Hello, my love. Hello, Ellen. Your mum is always going to take care of you, I promise. Rob was not at the birth. The restraining order was still in effect. He could only see the baby with supervision once a week at a specialized center. At first, he went religiously. He held Ellen, he talked to her, he sang to her. But over time, the visits became spaced out. 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month. Where is Dad? The center supervisor would ask when Shelley arrived. I don't know. He didn't answer my texts. Rob had found someone else, a 23-year-old girl who worked at his father's company. Pretty, young, no children, no house of her own, completely dependent on him. We knew this from Gabrielle, Rob's sister, who had started visiting Shelley regularly. My brother introduced his new girlfriend at the house. My mother is happy. She says he finally found someone who makes him happy. And Ellen? Shelley asked. He doesn't mention her. It's as if she doesn't exist. I watched my daughter's face move from surprise to pain, and then to something different. Acceptance. At least now Ellen won't grow up confused. She'll grow up knowing that her mum loves her, and that is enough. The divorce was finalized 8 months after Ellen's birth. Rob signed everything without a fight. He was too busy with his new life. He gave up shared custody. He only asked for sporadic visits. "I can't be a father right now," he told his lawyer. "I have other priorities." The alimony the judge ordered him to pay was generous, but Rob almost never paid it on time. There was always an excuse: a problem with the bank, a business trip, a forgotten payment. Shelley had to sue him 3 times for non-payment. "It's exhausting, Mum. Every month is a struggle." "I know, my dear, but don't give up. That alimony is Ellen's right." Meanwhile, Shelley's life began to flourish in unexpected ways. She had returned to work when Ellen was 6 months old. Her boss, impressed by her dedication, offered her a promotion. "I want you to be the creative director. You have talent and vision." She had also met other single mothers at the park. They formed a support group. They helped each other with childcare. They shared recipes. They listened to each other when they needed to vent. "For the first time in years, I feel like myself," she told me one afternoon, while we were having coffee in her living room. The Brooklyn Heights house now had life. There were photographs on the walls, plants in the windows, Ellen's toys everywhere. "You look happy." "I am. Sometimes it's hard. Sometimes I'm exhausted. But I'm free, Mum, and that's priceless." A year after the divorce, Gabrielle called me. "Margaret, I need to tell you something. About Rob. What happened? He's getting married again to the young girl. So fast? She's pregnant. My mother is organizing a big wedding. She says this time everything will be different. That this girl really knows what it means to be a good wife." I felt pity. Not for Rob. For that girl who didn't know what she was getting into. "And how is Rob?" Gabrielle sighed. "Unhappy. It shows. He smiles for pictures, but he looks empty. My dad says Rob asks about Shelley, about Ellen, but he's too proud to admit he made a mistake." 2 years after the divorce, we received news from the Cunningham family again. Rob and his second wife had separated. She had left him, taking their 1-year-old son. She said he was controlling, that he isolated her from her family, that he checked her phone. "Everything you said he did," Gabrielle told me over the phone. "It's sad," I said sincerely. "Sad that he doesn't learn." My dad tried to talk to him. He told him he needed therapy. Rob yelled that everyone was against him, that modern women don't know how to be wives. Mr. Ernest had tried to reach out to Shelley several times. He wanted to meet his granddaughter, but he respected that she needed time. Finally, when Ellen turned 3, Shelley agreed to a visit. Mr. Ernest arrived with tears in his eyes. "She's just like you when you were a baby," he told Shelley. "Beautiful." He had brought her a gift, a small necklace with a Virgin Mary medal. "It was my mother's, for Ellen, to protect her. Thank you, Mr. Ernest. I am so sorry for what my son did to you. I tried to raise him better. I really tried." "You are not to blame. Rob is an adult. He made his own decisions." The old man nodded sadly. "You know what? Rob lost his job at the family company. Why? Because my father discovered he was diverting funds to maintain his lifestyle, to impress his girlfriends. He fired him. And Mrs. Cunningham? She still defends him. She says everyone is unfair to him, that the world is against him. But I'm tired, very tired." 3 months later, Mr. Ernest passed away, a heart attack in his sleep. Shelley went to the funeral. She took Ellen, who already understood that this older gentleman was her grandfather. Rob was there. He looked gaunt, older than his 32 years indicated. When he saw Shelley, he approached. "Thanks for coming. I'm sorry for your loss. He loved you very much. He always defended you." "I know." Rob looked at Ellen. The girl had Shelley's dark hair and his green eyes. "She's beautiful. I I ruined everything, didn't I?" Shelley didn't answer immediately. Then, in a soft but firm voice, she said, "Yes, you ruined it, but I built something better from the ruins." He nodded. A tear rolled down his cheek. "I'm sorry. For everything." "I know." That was the last time they spoke. Years later, I heard that Rob was still alone. He lived in a small apartment. He worked at a company that wasn't his family's. His mother visited him often, still blaming the world for his unhappiness. And I thought about how life always collects its debts. Rob had wanted to control. He had wanted to possess. And in the end, he was left with nothing. While Shelley, who had the courage to leave, to rebuild herself, to choose her freedom, had everything. He once called me crazy when I told her not to sell the house. Years later, I saw him alone at his father's funeral, with that empty look of someone who knows they lost the best thing they had. Life always collects its debts. Always. Today, Ellen is 7 years old. She is a bright girl, full of life and questions. "Grandma, why doesn't my dad come to see me?" is the question that hurts me the most to hear. But Shelley has learned to answer it honestly. "Because your dad is lost, my love. Sometimes grown-ups get lost and don't know how to find their way back. And will he find it someday?" "I don't know, my darling. But what I do know is that you have a lot of love. From your mum, from your grandma, from all the people who love you." And it's true. Ellen is surrounded by love. The Brooklyn Heights house continues to be their refuge. Shelley never sold it. She never considered it after that night. The bougainvillea has grown so much that it covers almost the entire back wall. The fountain continues to sing with the water falling over the tiles. And in the evenings, Shelley and Ellen sit on the main bedroom balcony to watch the sunset. "This place saved us," Shelley told me a few months ago. "Not just physically, but emotionally. Having a place of my own, something no one could take from me, gave me the strength to keep going. That's what I gave it to you for, my dear. I know, and I thank you for it every day." Shelley is now the creative director of a large agency. She earns well, she has savings, she has started investing. "I want Ellen to have what I had," she tells me. Security, options, the certainty that she will never completely depend on anyone. She has also met someone. His name is Jeff. He is an elementary school teacher, also divorced, with a daughter Ellen's age. They are not rushing things. They have only been dating for 6 months, but what I see in them is different from what I saw with Rob. I see respect. I see that he listens to her. I see that he consults her before making plans. I see that he doesn't try to change her. "It's strange, Mum," Shelley told me last week. "With Rob, I always felt like I had to be less so he could feel more. With Jeff, I feel like I can be everything I am." That's how love should be, my dear. You should never make yourself small for someone else to feel big. We know little about Rob. Gabrielle tells us occasionally. He is still alone. He has had some girlfriends, but no relationship lasts. He still blames everyone but himself for his unhappiness. Mrs. Cunningham died last year. Until the end, she defended Rob. Until the end, she blamed modern women for not knowing how to be wives. Gabrielle finally gathered the courage to get a divorce 3 years ago. Now she works again at the family company that was left to her after Mr. Ernest's death. "Your mum inspired me," she told me at a dinner we had at the house. "Seeing how she protected Shelley made me realize that I also deserved protection, even if I had to give it to myself." This afternoon I am sitting in the patio of the Brooklyn Heights house. Ellen is playing with her dolls near the fountain. Shelley is in the kitchen making iced tea. I look around and see everything we built from those ruins. I see a strong mother raising her daughter with love and dignity. I see a happy child who knows she is loved. I see a house full of life and laughter. And I think of that night at the grand ballroom, of the maid's uniform, of Rob's face when he said, "Perfect. She's going to need this at home." I think of how I took the box with the documents out, of how everything changed in that moment, and I realized that it wasn't the house that saved Shelley. It was knowing that she had options. It was knowing that she wasn't trapped. It was knowing that her mother had loved her enough to give her the freedom to choose. Ellen runs towards me. "Grandma, when I grow up, am I going to have a house too?" "Yes, my love. Your mum and I will make sure of that." "So no one can lock me in?" I freeze. Shelley comes out of the kitchen. "What did you say, my darling?" "I heard you telling Uncle Jeff that Daddy locked you in, and that's why you left." Shelley kneels in front of her. "Yes, my love, but that's over. And the important thing is that I learned something. I learned that we must never, ever let someone take away our freedom. Do you understand?" "Yes, Mummy. And that's why we have this house, to always be free." "Exactly." Ellen hugs her mum and then runs off to play again. Shelley sits down next to me. She takes my hand. "Thank you, Mum, for everything, for the house, for believing in me when I didn't believe in myself, for staying that night, for all the nights. You don't have anything to thank me for. You are my daughter. I will always protect you. And I will protect Ellen. I will teach her what you taught me. That true love doesn't control. That freedom is not selfishness. That a woman must always have something of her own." We sit there, watching Ellen play. The sun is setting. The bougainvillea looks even more beautiful in the golden light of the sunset. And I think of all the women who are listening to this story, the ones who are in difficult marriages, the ones who are afraid to leave, the ones who think they have no options. I want them to know something. There are always options. There is always a way out. There is always hope. Sometimes we just need someone to remind us. Sometimes we just need a house, or a job, or a friend, or a mother who tells us, "You can do it. You are worth it. You deserve to be free." That night at the ballroom, when I took those documents out of the blue velvet box, I didn't know how this story was going to end. But now I know. It ended with freedom, with dignity, with love. And that is all a mother can wish for her daughter. If my story helps a single woman open her eyes, it will have been worth it. If my decision inspires a single mother to protect her daughter, I will have fulfilled my purpose. Because in the end, true love is not about controlling. True love is about giving wings. And sometimes those wings come in the form of a deed, of a house, of a way out. Thank you for listening until the end. If this story touched your heart, subscribe and hit the bell to hear more stories of women who turned their pain into wisdom. Every day, one woman, one life lesson. Share this story with someone you love. Sometimes a story like this can change an entire day. God bless you, and until next time.